Hi, everyone. Everyone can hear me? Yes, yes. All right. Welcome. Super excited to have you here. Super excited about the beginning of a journey. You would have read on the screen before that the whole afternoon is really a session about ensuring, enabling, empowering equitable women's participation in India's $1 trillion Gen AI opportunity. This is a big opportunity. This is also a fantastic moment for us to really accelerate participation of women in technology, not just women that are in technology, but also women that aspire to be in technology and are seeking out both job and entrepreneurial opportunities in technology. So really happy to have you all here to kick off the conversation. As we had in the invite, the first session is being kindly hosted by Google. We've got Sai and Shanta here. I'll let them introduce themselves in detail. They're from Google Cloud, and they're going to give us an overview of Gen AI models, Gen AI deployment, some of the things that we were talking about right before the session started with them were absolutely brilliant in terms of what is the real transition in technology that Gen AI is building and what the importance of creativity and critical thinking is, as opposed to really merely learning the technical aspects of coding. I think that you'll enjoy that presentation. And then the second discussion that we'll have would be with an esteemed panel. I'll introduce them later, but really looking forward to this, and thank you to Google for hosting this. Over to you guys.
Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Sai. So I'm part of Google Cloud. So I lead digital native business for Hyderabad region. That means I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, startups, digital natives companies. The companies basically, they build their technology platforms, right? I have Santa Das Karmakar, who is a technical account manager, and he's also based out of Hyderabad, right? And for the next 60 minutes, we're going to spend a brief introduction, I would say, about what is Gen AI, evolution of Gen AI, what are the different things we do at Google on the Gen AI space, right? Like how the industry going towards, right? Apart from that, we have two cool demos which Santa will present. I think you guys will love it.
Thank you, Sai, for introducing. Good evening, everyone. How are you today? Hope quite excited for this session. That's great. The topic is Gen AI. And what I have seen, like earlier it used to take probably a quarter to build, develop, and deploy a use case in production. But now that probably is not required, right? You can deploy a use case in probably weeks' time. Okay, so first of all, I just want to check with all of you who all have some brightest, coolest idea, and you are waiting for some probably like technology with the help of which you can deploy it. Can anyone raise their hand, please? So I can tell you, like, if you have a brightest idea, this would be the right platform for you. If you think you need to know a lot of coding skills required to translate your idea into some kind of piece of applications, then Gen AI can help you with a lot of this. Okay, just to give an example, more than me, I find my wife and my kid actually find this technology much more fascinating, and they use it. So my kid is actually an artist, 12 and a half years old. Okay. And draw a lot of things. Sometimes I do challenge, hey, this is not coming out. He uses Gen AI to see what he wants to build it or develop it and then actually draw it. Okay, so there are many different use cases I can say, which even I'll be also not able to articulate it for the time being. So my name is Shantadas Karmakar, and I'm actually technical account manager. I manage a couple of large enterprises in India and as well as outside India also, and I have helped a lot of customers translate their use case into productions. So I know that kind of journey. Some of the aspects we'll be sharing with you all here. Is this working? Yes, sir. I'm just wondering, I think. Sorry. I'm moving fast. Is there any way I can go back? Can you take me to the first page? I wanted to go to the first page. What's up? Huh? What happened? I wanted to go to the first page. Okay, this is the one. All right.
You just give me a heads up. I'll
Sure. Sure. So why do you think we should probably use Google Cloud AI? Is it the right choice? There are many CSPs, right, and there are a lot of open source product as well. So there are a couple of things why you should prefer Google over others, though it is not actually I'm promoting Google, just want to let you know, but these are the various facts which I thought of sharing with you all. So first of all, Google has a deep history of research and innovation in AI. Okay, we have around 3,500 researchers core working only in AI, and there are more than 7,000 publications. Right, so that is the kind of expertise what we have it, and it is not just started the journey probably now. It's almost 20 years old history we have it on the GenAI, and that is where all this technology what we have worked on, now we have built it, packaged it, and making it available in a secure manner to you. Because there are a lot of technology out there which can do a lot of greatest things, but when you deploy it in an enterprise, when you run a business, it's not just the feature what is important. You also need to ensure that your data is secured. You also need to ensure that right compliance, regulatory rule, all you are maintaining, right? So it's a separate ballgame the moment you deploy something into production. So now we have spoken about two cases. One is as an enterprise what you do, and at the same time, if I have to build something very quickly, show it to your investors and excite them so that they can invest in your product, right? So that time you may not have sufficient fund, you may not have probably that much of time, and you do not have right resources as well. So what should you do? So that is why Google actually offered two platforms. The first platform for which offer as an enterprise in Google Cloud, we call that as a Vertex AI. In this presentation, I'll be mainly talking about Vertex AI, but as a an entrepreneur, when you are just building a cool idea, you need some platform to explore. For that, we have Google AI Studio, which is available free of cost, and we would be able to show you right here as well. Please wait for the time for that. Okay. So, all right, next slide, please. So generative AI is transforming how we interact with the technology in various ways for different kind of people in a different way. So it is not just restrictive only to the programmer, developers. Even the business users are actually finding much more easier to use it. Okay, so yeah, so here is actually the history of the Google's innovations in GenAI space or AI. So it all actually see AI is quite old if you look at it, right? We have a lot of models, but those models, in the case of RNN, CNN, or few others as well, it was not scalable until 2012. Then Google, invented something called transformer, which actually built that parallelizing and scalability capacity into the model. And after that, the entire GenAI space actually got evolved. Things got much more faster as well. So you see, after that, there are a lot of technology innovation has happened in this space, not just from Google, from other companies as well. But the first breaking model LLM was BART, which was invented by Google in around 2018. After that, text-to-text transformer model came as T5 in 2019, and then you see lot of other models also parallelly. People build like GPTs and all those things, right? So in 2023 and towards end, we also came up with something called Gemini and Bird, then Lambda, all those things came up. So all this, if you look at it, the technology Google has built using 7 responsible AI principle. These are the core. I'm not going actually says whatever we have built, where the ground stuff we have considered their appropriate compliance aspect, regulations aspect, the trust aspect, the security of users, privacy aspects, all those inbuilt in the design, and that gives a lot of advantage to the end users. Whenever you are developing something, you need to rest assured that your data would not be compromised. Okay, there are a lot of we do see a lot of challenges here right now in this space in terms of how do you ensure your security, privacy, all things are taken care of. So in Google, probably this thing would be much less compared to other technologies. Moving to the next slide. Okay. So here, I'm going to first introduce you to Gemini, which is the latest multimodal model starting from the ground. What does that mean? So today, if you look at, there are many different LLM models are there, or GenAI model. Some might take text as an input and then gives you the response. Some might take probably image as an input and gives you some response. Okay, some might also take video as an input. So these are all different model. But if you bring text, image, or video all together in your single prompt, you might get a very different response. If it is separately, if you are putting it in one by one, creating a different pipeline, probably your model will be much more complex. The way you solve the problem might take a longer time there. And it is not so easy also to build and maintain all these models. So that is where Google actually brought the various teams together internally. So here you could see like Google DeepMind, Google Research, all they came together and then they invented this model Gemini. It's not coming. So it is a state-of-the-art, natively multimodal reasoning capability what it provides, and it is highly optimized. So it has a very huge context window. What are all those things we are coming back? This is just I'm trying to prepare the base for the next demo actually. So you can give probably 400 pages worth PDF document, and you can ask summarize that document. Won't that be cool? For example, let's say I can pass the entire penal code or specific all the regulations related with the GSTs, and I can ask, okay, give me a certain aspect of from that GST. So if I don't know anything about all the regulations related with the GST or any other stuff, the model can help you to quickly identify. That's the the potential Gemini has it. And Gemini also is available in multiple form. Okay, so for example, I can use it for enterprise where I need loads of GPU to run it, or if I want to run Gemini capability in edge, like in your mobile devices, we have Gemini Nano for that. Okay, so that is where wherever you need, you don't have to come and find it out. The the Gemini model is there to help you at each user points. Okay, so let's start with the one of the demo here where you would see how big we would be probably feeding one video, and we will start searching for that video. Intuitively, we'll be asking a lot of questions. Can you please play it? You can expand it there.
An experimental feature in our newest model, Gemini 1.5 Pro. We'll walk through a screen recording of example prompts using a 44-minute Buster Keaton film, which comes out to over 600,000 tokens. In Google AI Studio, we uploaded the video and asked, find the moment when a piece of paper is removed. and asked, what is the time code when this happens? This is an example of a multimodal prompt, where we combine text and image in our input. The model returned this time code, 1534. We pulled that up and found that it was the correct scene. Like all generative models, responses vary and won't always be perfect. But notice how we didn't have to explain what was happening in the drawing. Simple drawings like this are a good way to test if the model can find something based on just a few abstract details, like it did here. These are just a couple examples of what's possible with a context window of up to 1 million multimodal tokens in Gemini 1.5 Pro.
So I would like to take a pause here now and just wanted to check it out. If you have any questions, do you feel like who all are curious about Gemini right now? Let's raise hand. Yes, I could see. Wow, that's great. Do you find like you can probably use this in whatever the creative idea you have it? See, one thing what I would like to probably again let you know that you did not write a single piece of code here to analyze a video which is 44 minutes long. And you found the response under 1 minute, right? And that's also very, very critical wrong. Another aspect what you could see that we have used video as an input, then we have given an image as an input along with the text. And all three it actually understands, right? So that is the, the capability what Gemini can bring to all of you. It's only like, if you have a brightest idea, just start exploring it. And you may not have to pay also right now. Okay, so there is a Google AI Studio. Can you please take me to the other screen? The last one here, after my drive, yes. So Google AI for developers, here you can try, this model. Sorry, this is the, the enterprise tool where you can quickly develop, build all whatever we are talking about here. Scroll down a little bit. With 2 million tokens. So we have given an example of 1 million token. Here you can try it with 2 million token. Just try Gemini Studio there. So various different models are available. We have spoken about the Nano, which you can bring it to the to the edge devices. Okay, so it is just your idea is what your limitation would be. The technology is not going to be a limitations. The programming skills is not going to be a limitations. Okay, let's bring it back. And also it has a lot of examples there. So you can very quickly build your demo. So we have already spoken about that here. I'm going to present about the GCP's offering, okay, the enterprise suite, the retail suite for quickly building your prototype. I have already shown it. Now, when we speak about the enterprise suite, the suite is, there are 3 or 4 different primary stacks which we'll be talking about at a very high level. So the first underline, the stack on which the entire solution is built is the infrastructure stack, which is built on GPU, TPU. I'll touch base those things also later. And the very important stack which is highlighted here in blue box, it has 3 different components. The Vertex AI Model Garden. Everybody is aware of the marketplace. So it is similar to that. We will come in a bit on that as well. Vertex AI Model Builder and Vertex AI Agent Builder. These are the 3 different pieces which we will talk about. All 3, you need it at some or other point when you are building an AI solution with generative AI and taking it to production. So these are all your enterprise, kind of a great tool. On top of it, it is actually integrated with Gemini for Google Cloud. So for example, today I'm using Google Cloud, and I want to develop a cool solution using, let's say, BigQuery. But I do not know how to write code, how to write an SQL query. So business-wise, you just write, hey, this is the table, this is what I want to do, then I want to aggregate this data based on this column from this date to this date, and I want to filter all the records from these specific countries only. So all those things, you just write it in a plain English language, you get the specific SQL queries in a minute's time. So that is what the model. In case if there is any issues happen, like I want to provision infrastructure on Kubernetes, but I do not know what's Kubernetes. I can even write prompts, and it can give you those code as well, right? So that is how the Gemini is integrated with Google Cloud. Google Workspace, where you use your doc, spreadsheets, you use Gmail, you use GChat. So there as well, the Gemini is integrated. So today, when I respond, I'm not so good in probably in languages, and I need to write a very fine responses to my leadership team. I use happily GChat, Gmeet, all when it is integrated with the Gemini. Ask, validate, get the template, format it out, and accordingly add it there. So these are the different aspects where Gemini is integrated with with the various tool which we use it in day in and day out, but we never actually realize that we are using Gemini. So under the hood, probably many of us are using Gemini in many different instances. On top of it, we have AI solutions. So here, all whatever we have spoken about, it's actually you are building something, right? But I do not have that much of time now. I need a quick solution. For example, I want to extract text from an document, right? Something like OCR technology. If I am working on a banking sector, there are a lot of documents you receive as a part of KYC. It's just an example there, but in every industry, you see you have to process a lot of documentation. What if the technology can help you build that? So that is where the AI solutions are ready-made solution, which is offered as a software as a services. You just need to use them. So there are many different solutions, which probably I'll touch base at a very high level, only the naming, not more than that. Next slide. So this is the lower stack which you spoke about on the GPU, TPU, all the infrastructure. So recently the Tensor Processing Unit version 5e is actually great for all your inference workload in production, which gives you around 2+ x speed than the predecessor. Same thing for the V5. If you have any training workload, you are just testing a new LLM model and you want to do it at scale, up to probably 10,000, 20,000, maybe 40,000 nodes you need or GPUs, then TPU can sign pretty well. And it also gives much higher the performance than the predecessor version. So that is one aspect. If you want to use GPU, the Google platform provides the H100, that's the latest offering from NVIDIA, along with for performance, for inference perspective, you can use G2, which is the prior powered by L4 GPUs from NVIDIA. Okay, so all this technology actually provides you price to performance. So, and you can very quickly use it. So there is not much of a upfront cost you have to pay or the time you have to configure. This is all well integrated in the Google Cloud platform itself. Moving to the next slide. As I said, this is the core box. We will spend a little bit more time. Now coming to the Vertex AI model garden. So there are, next slide please. Next slide. Yeah, so this is, I would say, like in one of the core slide, which I want to take it to home. So there are 150 plus enterprise ready foundation model available in Vertex AI model garden. Now, what is model garden? We said it is similar to marketplace, right? There are a lot of models available. You can also publish your own model over there, and any other enterprises users or retail user can consume, right? Similarly, you can consume it from there. So it has Google model, foundation model, open source model, third-party model, all like a true open source platform, the way Google Cloud is. All are available right here. So I'll speak about few of them here, starting with the Gemini Foundation. Gemini, we spoke about, these are all multi-model. Okay, and if you have to start with Gemini when you have a multimodal capabilities required, like I want to process image, text, video, all input together, then only you would be using. Your starting point would be Gemini 1.5 Flash, because that is going to be a little bit cheaper compared to other, with the similar accuracies and performance. So you're not losing anything, but you are paying little less. Now, I may not need the multimodal capability. Maybe my use case is only from text-to-text generations, right? Or maybe I need only image editing capability, right? So in that case, probably spending on Gemini may not be the the cool idea. In that case, I will go with the Google Foundation model, specifically built for single modalities, specific, so based on your needs. So here, PAM we spoke about as a text, images for image generation, image editing. We'll speak more about that as well. CHARP is text to speech or speech to text. Cody is where you want to generate code or you want to edit code, or you want to get a recommendation on a code or debug a code. All those cool features you can get it from Cody. The Cody you can also integrate with your own enterprise code. So for example, you want to build a developer-centric tool, right? And you don't need to just use it out of the box. You said, okay, this is my enterprise. I want to fine-tune my LLM model based on your tool, because all large enterprises, they use their own specific framework, right? Which may not be very much equivalent to your open source thing. They have their own proprietary designs, etc. So when you want to use Cody, you can integrate with your existing code base, fine-tune it, and then use it for recommendation purpose. So a lot of cool things you can do there, and it would be again cheaper than the multimodal models there. Now coming back, let's say I really do not have the time, energy, resources, etc. to use any of this foundation model and build on something on your own. So in that case, you can go with all the SaaS offering where you have speech to text or document OCR, speech to text to speech, all those models, whatever is available, right? So you just need to call them up and you can use it as is without any training requirement there. If you are working on any specific domain like medical, cybersecurity, I know a lot of improvements or researches are going on. If you plan to use any of them, the MedLM or SecPalm would be the right choice to start your research work from there. If none of these models are actually useful for you, there are a lot of third-party models which definitely you can use it. So all you get it in one platform without spending or hassle of integrating them. How do you deploy it? How do you configure it? All those hassles would be taken away. So, and you definitely need very less actually programming knowledge for all these things. Moving to the next, or rather, I would like to wait here. Any questions from that slide? Yes, please. Can someone lend the mic?
Hello? Yeah. My question was on MedLM.
Yes.
So let's say I work on the life sciences product. I'm using Python as my coding backend. So is it a free source, open source, where I can integrate the APIs and then give a flavor of AI to my product?
Okay. As of now, MedPalm is not an open source product. So you have to actually first log in, need to have an enterprise account.
Okay.
Okay. Then you would be working with some of the sales lead like Sai here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Sai, you want to add?
So MedPalm, so the leader version is under preview, right? Like even for some customers, we have extended the previewed models as well. It all depends on what kind of a use case you have. I think this particular version is available. You just have to log into Google Console and go to Vertex AI and get access to MedLM.
Right. So let's say if I'm working on a clinical trial management system, CTMS, clinical trial management
Okay,
system.
okay.
So do you think, let's say if I have enterprise account, I can still use MedLM?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Sai and Church.
Any other queries? Otherwise, if you want to chat with us in 101 post this session, we will still be here. Yeah, I'm happy to take another one or two more queries.
Yeah, can this model be used in edge devices?
If it is Gemini Nano, yes, it can be used. Okay, there are that is where we are saying like it is available in various platforms. You don't have to come. The platform will enable you over there. So yes.
No, if we have a standalone device and we need to build the model in the standalone device, can we use it in that way?
When you are saying standalone device, can you please define that?
Like no internet access.
Okay, so I'll probably name if Gemini model can it be if you have a right chips there like in Pixel Pro, okay 9, the tensor chip is already over there. So the model can run in your mobile device if that's what you're looking for. But if the chip is not there, the model may not be supported. Okay.
I think to be specific, right now, Pixel 9, it has inbuilt nano models. Not only Pixel, I think iPhone's latest versions also integrated, as well as Samsung's latest phones has been like these models are on the device itself, right? They don't connect to internet to get the response, right? Like Google Lens, like when you capture it, identifies the object, right? So the edge models only give the result.
But I have probably a follow-up question here. May I know what would be your use case? I'm not saying you have to discuss it right here. Okay, if it is a proprietary, happy to understand it a little bit more.
We are actually trying to do some video processing and text processing. And we are trying to build a few solutions using AI models. Right now we are using BERT for text processing. So we have a standalone system, and we want to run AI models on our system.
Let's discuss it offline. Probably need to spend a little bit more time to get there. Okay. I'll take one more query before I move on because I find this audience is really awesome.
Let's say I have some proprietary code, so which I don't want to share with other people. How should I generate the LLM?
So, see, there are two parts over here. First, if you are using Google Cloud Platform and you are training it, then your data, your code, all remain with you. Okay, Google does not use it at all for for our internal purposes. Okay, so that way you are very secure.
So
now
yeah, even the queries you put, your prompt you enter also, we don't even use that data. So that means rest assured your data is yours, right? So Google is not learning from the data. Like it's just that that kind of a guardrails we have so that to protect your IP. Yeah.
And a follow up on that is whatever we have spoke right now, that is on Google Cloud Platform. But in this particular session, I have also introduced Google AI Studio, if you remember, which is free. So that is very quickly you can build it. You may not be able to develop or deploy a production model. This is only to show some case of a POCs, demos, etc. So over there, whatever you give as an input, that can be viewable internally by Google. Just want to give you that distinction. The Google Cloud Platform, all data, everything is much more secure. It's an enterprise ready. The Google AI Studio is meant for something else. Okay, so yep, I'll move on there, but I'm happy to take all your questions. We will respond to you. If not, we will take them back. A little bit more on the Gemini. I think Gemini we have spoken a lot that, so moving to the Gemini, Imagen 2, right now the Imagen 3 also would be, coming soon. So it can generate a very, very high quality, realistic images. On the right hand side, you see there are various prompts and the image getting generated out there. And in today's demo, we will actually showcase one or two cool features over here. You can create a new image, you can edit an existing image, you can create a logo, okay, you can even questions based on a specific image as well. And we have seen that capability in the multi-model Gemini model as well. And while generating the image, the safety feature is actually inbuilt over there. So you cannot generate any explicit image actually. So those would be, blocked default by the system. So, and whenever you create any image, the automatically watermark also would be added so that it ensures you know that this image is created by AI and not it's by a specific artist. Moving to the next one. So these are the the three different example which you have shown it for image generations. Okay, second, the image editing where you can see inpainting insert. Okay, so let's see there. Now we'll be editing, okay, seamlessly removing. So this is the first inpainting remove, inpainting insert where the heel is getting added. Okay, and you're broadening it, so outpainting. All these features is actually supported right here. And for this, you may not need any code if you are just trying it out yourself right now. But if you want to use this and let's say build an application where the photo editing features you want to give it to everyone as an app, right, as a service, then definitely you have to do a little bit of coding, and all those template code also would be provided using Gemini itself. So I'm using Gemini to create the code for building an application using Gemini. So that is what we do. Okay, so this is one of my actually work when I was trying to get certifications, but that time the feature was very different there. So I'm quite excited to see now how things have been implemented. Moving next slide, please. So we spoke about a lot of model. Google has also built an open source Gemma model. So Gemma is actually available. Can you move next slide, please? And okay, Vertex AI. So now we'll go to the Vertex AI builder. Move next. Yes. So Vertex AI, so far we have spoken about only on the various LLM capability. But when you build an application, you need a conversational capability as well, right? When you talk about conversational capability means we need a chatbot, because that is the only way right now we are actually introducing your functionality to a vast amount of users, and the experience is much more different, right? So Agent Builder is going to help you to build that chatbot very quickly without even having any knowledge about how do you search a document at a Google scale. Okay, how do you build a conversational chatbot? So all just probably by click and drop and drag kind of a experience, you will get it in probably hours time. Your chatbot can be ready. So Agent Builder assists you build all those things as a no code, low code, or if you want full flexibility as a full code option also it provides. What are the functionality it provides? It helps you orchestrate with other services. It helps you integrate with other applications, okay, so that your data, whatever you are showing it, it is grounded. So all LLM model today, it generate codes, and that is only its promise. Okay, the result what you get, it may not be deterministics. So every time if you give the one prompt, you may not get the same responses, right? That is one of the challenge today. So with the grounding, you can actually validate the response what is being generated out of LLM. Is that the accurate one? Is that what you are looking for? or it is not. So that is the grounding, the tech features what is been added with Agent Builder, and you can use this to ensure that your applications is actually responding based on the context which you are providing and not a generalistic one. So that way your response would be much more deterministic. So all these options you can take, and along with that you can also hook with your other APIs through which you can take some actions. So for example, I want to build an application where for a ticketing system. So when somebody places a request, I want to ensure that request gets executed, order gets processed. Probably the warehouse system, you creates a new order. The payment system, it actually process the payment and give all the response. So all those actions through Agent Builder, by integrating through Webhook, you will be able to take it. So the new feature is called function calling for that. So all these things, as we said, it's no code. That means you save a lot of time. You focus only on your business use case and not on learning technologies. Next, please. So these are the various, like in a use case, we thought of just letting you know where prominently folks are using where the Agent Builder to build them. Next. Okay, next. Yeah, so this is where we will end, and we will start with our demo. So there is a cloud AI trusted program, okay, where you can nominate yourself. It actually helps a lot to initiate your journey with Google Cloud AI. And we'll be happy to provide you more details when we will talk one on the demo. Please over there, start it and come.
So this is the demo I was excited about in the beginning, and most of you might have visited e-commerce sites like for doing some shopping, right? And most of you have ambitions to build a D2C platform, right? Where you have thousands or lakhs of tens of lakhs of items listed there, right? So one of the important aspect is to attach a right meta tag to a product, right? For example, we have a product address, right? You can just scroll down. So this is a product we have. So this particular product has 5 images, right? Now here I wanted to validate whatever meta tags attached to this product are right or not, right? Here you can see a dress, so this is the meta tags attached. Like, for example, color is blue, which is obviously wrong. We wanted to validate whether our system or models can identify it or not, right? The length is ankle. Obviously, we have to see whether it is true or not. Type, whether belt is there, what kind of a pattern we have, what kind of a shape we have, how many number of dresses there are, right? So let's scroll down and see all the 5 pictures I'm going to upload to my model. Like, this is the first picture, front facing, scroll down. Yeah. So, yeah. So you saw all the 5 pictures, right? Now there are 12 attributes to all these 5 pictures, right? So already these 12 attributes, we wanted to validate whether these all 12 attributes are right or wrong, right? As a D2C company or an e-commerce company, you have to make sure whatever attributes attached to the product are right, or else the user experience will be spoiled, right? Like if someone is searching for blue dress and if you see pink dress, they're not going to buy, right? So for example, let's run whether attributes attached to this particular pictures are right or wrong, right? So can you run this? Attributes, and it is checking across all 5 images which are presented, right? Yeah. we have to pray to demo gods, everything works out. Yeah. We already tested it, it worked. Let's see if it works again. Yep. Just scroll up. I see 3 red flags there. It is showing the dress color is pink, whereas the attached attribute is blue. Like that is what we are looking for, right? And the second thing is, it is not ankle length dress. Like you have to tell me whether this is ankle length or not. Can you scroll down the picture, please? The system is saying this is not ankle dress. Like, it's in between ankle and your knee, right? And so what is the third attribute? Yeah. So this is half sleeves. So in the attribute, it's marked as puff sleeves. Right? So it is kind of highlighted, and we can easily correct and validate the attribute is attached to that picture, right? So to just check, we'll try to change the dress color from blue to pink, right? Whether it corrects itself or not. Yeah, you can just run. Again, we have to pray that it comes faster this time. Yeah, so these are the beautiful things you can try out yourself, right? So here we are using plain old Gemini models, and there are n number of use cases. Like you have 5 images, and you wanted to cross-check the whatever metadata attached to that image, and validate it accordingly. Anyone of you are planning to build a D2C platform, e-commerce platform? Yes, I see one hand. I think this kind of thing is pretty much useful, right? Because imagine we have thousands of items listed, and you have either manual way or old way of validating it, right? So this is something easily, yeah. You can see now it is kind of corrected itself, right? Now, we'll try to segue from this kind of models into Imagen model, right? Yeah, you saw the dress. Yeah. Yeah, and final thing is all the 5 images are unique as well, right? So sometimes what happens as a e-commerce platform, you're working with aggregators, right? So they click similar kind of 5 images and upload. We want to identify that as well. So all 5 images have to be unique, right? So you can see there are no duplicate checks here. Yeah, yeah. We'll get into Imagen. So we have taken a picture, we have downloaded the picture, and see if we can, on the fly, use our creative, prompting, see what kind of a designs we can make out of it, right? Now, let's edit the image, upload the image. Yeah, so this is the image. Now let's do a prompting, right? So let's see if we can add some blue here. And let's see, and remove the sleeves as well. Wow. So it has given me one variation, right? So this is, multiple variations, Awesome. Multiple designs as well. Yeah. So this is something unique, right? Like, like I'm sure most of you will explore this, like, have one of your images and see what happens when you change color or, type of dress, right? Yeah, awesome. Any questions on this? Yeah. So you have to check the safety settings as well. Yeah.
Hi. Just wanted to check what is the typical response time for running, a test like this when we are trying to verify or validate? Because in this scenario that we saw, 12 images
Yeah.
with a couple of features, I think 10 or 12 features that you compared,
Yeah.
it took around 75 seconds. So if we are talking about customer interactions, I'm sure that is a higher response time.
So it all depends on how the entire model deployment and inferencing is deployed, right? Yeah.
So if you look at who would be the the specific user for this particular app, right? So this is mostly an internal app where all the warehouse details you have collated it together. Now at scale, like out of 1 million product, you want to check which all specific product does not adhere to your quality, right? So this happens in the background with lot of product at scale, and if you supply probably right amount of GPUs, I mean infrastructure, you still be able to improve that. Now coming back, do I need to really share it with the customer? This kind of the use case which we have shown may not be, but when you are adhering it to when you are building something for the customers, then the way you build the pipeline would be a little bit different. You probably should have done a lot of things upfront, build it in a cache, and then do only the last thing which is absolutely required based on the customer input. You do it and give the response back. So depending on how you actually orchestrate your workflow, you can achieve the desired throughput and latency for the end users. And we can help you with that if you have a proper use case.
One other question, if we can go back to the slide or the previous demo that you ran through. So how do you pass collection of values? Like you had half sleeves, right? The sleeve length. So what if I want to verify whether it is either half sleeve or sleeveless? Would that work as in an OR condition, or would it work as one of the two things? What would be the output in such cases?
Okay. So what happens is, their first question is, how do I ensure that my model can read multiple input at a time, right? So for that, what we do is we actually upload all the images, okay, or the other input, whatever, PDF file, whatever you can call it, in a storage bucket, okay, and then we point to that storage bucket to the model. So model reads there because storage bucket is also in Google Cloud, the model is also deployed. So the interaction between these two services are pretty faster. It reads, it processes, and generate the output in another output file, which is stored again in a separate place in same storage. Okay, so that is how you ensure that you do it at scale. But if you upload all these files one by one from a user interface, probably it might take quite longer, and it may not be a scalable process. So now you are introducing another human aspect of it, right? Whereas multiple folks would be updating or uploading all the images, their product catalog, descriptions from all different places. It resides in one single place, which you may call it as a content management store. So you point out that and then start reading it. But it's a very good question. Thank you for. Any other queries? I think we have actually completed the presentations, and we are happy to take any questions, whatever you have it.
So we are here. Like if you have any queries or one-on-one interaction, happy to help you. Thank you. If that's it from our side, Vikas or Sanjay. Yeah. Meanwhile, yeah.
Hello, myself Shweta. I'm from a banking background. where let's say banking data is highly sensitive with respect to your servers or processes. And for me, I have a process where I react to it when it fails. But can I predict the failure based on the previous incidents using this AI model?
Okay, so would it be possible? Answer is yes. Okay, so the way you would be doing is you have to train your model first, right? And you need to give lot of input data, then give all those pattern. If this is the pattern, then this is the outcome you're expecting it. Once the model is trained, after that at runtime, if the similar data come, the system would be able to predict it, yes.
Would that be a text model that you're expecting, or
Sorry?
would that be a text generated model?
No, it depends on what kind of like an input you are providing it.
See, for me, when I said about banking, right, I cannot expose all my incident details, right? So will there be a security layer attached to that?
So here when you are training your model on GCP, your data always remain with you. Okay, in the same project. Google does not have access to that data. Okay, so that way your model is highly secured when you are training it, and your data leakage, whatever you are concerned about, is not going to happen.
Okay, you say that you have additional security layer which will be implemented at your side, so which I don't have to bother from my application end, right?
That's right. There are many different features which you can use it, and for all banking customer we actually work with. So if you follow the certain design standards, the data would be always with yours.
Okay.
So from GCP side, we'll give you all the tools to make your data much more secure, right? For example, if you don't have any rule where any data won't go out of your VPC, your data will be within your VPC, right? So those kind of configurations you have to do from securing your data, right? From our side, we'll give you enough tools for you to build that kind of a platform for your product and solution.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Actually, suppose I was using the cloud AI, Gen AI. So in my enterprise, like how can I understand this piece of code is generated with a Gen AI or any kind of the model?
Okay. So if you are using our, let's say, Cody, okay, or Google Gen AI model for generating code, if the code is generated maximum, let's say, around 126 characters, taking that code piece from an existing open source, we actually use the reference to it. We explain them that this particular piece of code is taken from this source. Okay, so that explainability is actually configured in Google AI models.
I want to see the metrics. Suppose I have a manager, so I'm having taken a membership for the seat for like coding for 7-8 members. So how I would like to see the utilization of this prompts, and how many number of prompts an engineer is using, kind of thing.
I'm not getting the full question.
The metrics, how the usage we were using. Is there any API there where I can see how many prompts the particular person is requested? And
so if you're using in terms of code generation, right?
Right.
So number of API calls, you can easily track, right? And for code generation, we have a product called Code Assist. That is per user basis. That means you have 10 developers. That means you have 10 developer licenses, and you can easily see from which developer license more number of queries have happened, right? So like that you can easily track from the usage point of view.
Yeah, so you people are providing an API so that directly we can pull that report and do an analysis kind.
Yes, everything is API. All the services on GCP platform, you can access all the data via API call.
Okay, thank you.
So hi, I'm even from my banking background. So my question is, I have a requirement from my customer, and while I am promoting those changes, will my model be able to identify if I am sending any bugs or if it is impacting the existing application?
Okay, that's a very good question. So here, if you look at it, give your code to as an input to the model, and you ask, okay, what are the probably potential issues are there in your code? The code would be able to let you know. The code validation is possible.
Also,
So in
what
your DevOps pipeline, probably you need to send those, integrate your DevOps pipeline with the model and check for those validations.
and also that customer document which we'll be having, if I give it to the model, then will it be able to identify if all the requirements are met?
You might need to probably do some kind of a train the model using your the code aspects, whatever you have it, okay, and then check that out. So upfront, if you say, is there any tool which is going to generate and validate and verify whether these are the requirement and these are the different code? There are tools, but one-on-one mapping, I'm not sure. It can do
And
it.
also the second question is, it keeps on changing, right? This time I got a requirement, and the next time it will change.
I sense that, like if everything machine does, what is the point of human, right? So that is the indirect question I'm getting sense, right? So I see the point of these tools is not to replace anyone. The point of these tools to improve the productivity, right? So when I say code assist, it will, like whatever prompt only human will give, right? So by reading the required document, he'll understand and he'll give the prompt and he'll get the output, right? Then this particular tools will help you test it, validate it. So that is the only point. Like there will be human in loop irrespective.
Also, one more question.
Yeah.
So while we sign for any agreements, right, there are multiple pages which will be written, and most times will not read entire thing and will just sign it off.
Yeah.
So have you seen any such model wherein it will bring you the key insights from those docs?
So does this summarization is one of the important
Yes.
aspects of it, right? Like there are some models, like it also depends on what kind of a document, right?
Okay.
If it is a for example, RBI guidelines or HIPAA compliance guidelines, but for that we need to specifically train that. But ready-made, I'm not sure. Like if any specific industry vertical, we have to little bit training, right? I think we are almost on the time. I think whatever any other questions we'll take offline.
So, sorry to interrupt such an interesting conversation. You guys are here, right? So, you can certainly grab them outside, and if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to. Sorry, I have to speak with my hands. So, feel free to grab the gentleman outside. Can we give them an amazing round of applause? That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Sai and Shanta. That was great. Thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate Google's support, Google's participation. I'm sure we'll try and do more so we can continue to hear from Google. So we're going to take sort of 5 minutes now just to get the panel set up. And then we're going to move into the panel discussion that you've seen in the invite. If you want to take a bio break and so forth, please do that. And we'll try and start at 5. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, we're going to get going. So, can we settle down? Please? All right. So, welcome everyone. We are super excited to have this panel discussion tonight. I'm Vikas Sagar. I'm from SAWIT, which is the South Asia Women in Tech Network. And we're, as some of you may be aware, are organizing a large-scale skilling event for women to learn foundational skills in Gen AI. It is what we think is going to be the world's largest women-only Gen AI event. And this is in service of a larger mission, which is to skill 10 million women, Indian women in Gen AI over the next few years. I'll say more about that later. But given what we've set out to do, the discussion that we're going to have this evening is pertinent, important, and we are honored to have an esteemed panel with us to have this discussion, to share their perspectives, and to give us real insight. What we're going to talk about today is enabling and empowering women to get an equitable share of the $1 trillion Gen AI opportunity in India. That's a mouthful. It's a long setup for a panel discussion, but it's a very important one. And we believe this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to not just create a tremendous amount of value for India, but also to make a real leap forward in women's empowerment, and to do that in a way that generates a tremendous amount of professional growth and excitement for Indian women. And maybe just to set the context, this is an absolutely enormous opportunity. At least that's what all the media reports and all the research reports are saying. I'll say more about that later. And our ingoing hypothesis, our incoming view is we're not ready for it. At least that's my view. So we're going to talk about that today, see how ready we are, and how do we get more ready. So with that, let me introduce the panelists, and I'll go from right to left. So I'll start with Samita, and let me just kind of do this because this is easier. So Samita is an executive board member at SCS Global. More importantly, Samita is the co-founder of Resilience.ai, Resilience AI. And Resilience is basically taking very, very large data sets and on the basis of longitude and latitude, they can assess 17 or 19 different risks for enterprises and then give them solutions to mitigate the risks that they face. And of course, in the era of climate change, it's actually very timely and very pertinent. So welcome. And it's actually really great to have someone on the panel who's building AI, so we can ask her all the difficult AI questions. Next to Samita is Sita, and let me put my glasses on. Sita is the CEO of WeHub. She spearheads India's first state-run incubator dedicated to empowering women entrepreneurs. But actually, her career before she did that is also very exciting. She's a founder of Angel Hub, which she established as a platform that connects women-led startups with investors and provides crucial funding and mentorship so that they can fly. And I think it's with that you were, obviously well-suited for the role that you are now playing, and maybe continue to do at Angel Hub, I'm not sure. She's obviously a fervent advocate for gender equality, women entrepreneurship, and committed to breaking down barriers and creating meaningful opportunities for women. I know that she was just in New York doing some amazing stuff and raising funding for this, so welcome and thank you. Next to Sita is Jitendra Pucha. Did I get that right? I'm going to call him Jit because that's how I was introduced to him. Jit is the Global Head of Data and Analytics and AI at LTI Mindtree. He spearheads innovative projects that drive digital transformation and harness the full potential of data and AI. He's also the leader of the Diversity Forum at both LTI Mindtree and a member of the HYCEA Managing Committee. And he's the chair of the Diversity Forum in the HYCEA. Did I get all those things right? More or less. Obviously, he brings a fantastic perspective on how is Gen AI playing out in corporates, and I'll be directing a lot of questions to him about that. Next to him is MSR. I think everyone in the room knows MSR. When I first came to Hyderabad for my first, I've got to have my moment, MSR. I'm not going to spare you. When I came to Hyderabad, literally every meeting I went to was like, do you know MSR? So I'm very proud to introduce MSR, very honored to have him as part of the panel. He, as you know, is the CEO of T-Hub and is absolutely the hub of the entire Hyderabad ecosystem. In fact, almost everyone on the panel here was introduced by MSR, to me by MSR. So absolutely delighted to have you here, MSR. And lastly, we've got Srividya Reddy. Srividya is the past chairperson of CEI, I win as part of CEI for Telangana, where she led pivotal initiatives for women in the workforce. Importantly, and what she continues to do is she's the vice chairperson of GNITS. And GNITS, as you know, is a women-only engineering college. And she brings an absolutely unique perspective on what are we doing to skill women in Gen AI, and I think a lot of questions about education and skill gathering and skill building and so forth I'm going to be directing to you. Srividya is a passionate advocate for gender equality and has been instrumental in establishing platforms that enable women to flourish both professionally and personally. So welcome. I mean, I'm truly excited to have you all here. So let's give them a big round of applause. So, and my panel is tough because they made me script questions and they were like, okay, you got direct questions to me. So I'm going to try and be efficient and still have time for questions. But just 2 or 3 remarks to open. Why do we call this $1 trillion? Can we just go back to the, now that we've done the introductions, let's go back to the main page. So why do we call this $1 trillion opportunity? The research says, and the projections from E&Y in particular, are that between the 7 years of 2024 and 2030, the financial years, $1.5 trillion of cumulative GDP will be created in India by Gen AI. That's an enormous number. There are also estimates that somewhere between 3 and 5 million jobs will be created in India from AI, Gen AI, and automation over the next 5 years. So huge opportunity. And if kind of we look at where Gen AI is at the moment, it's the beginning of the third tech revolution. So the first one being PCs, 1981, internet, 1994, and now we're talking Gen AI. It's 18 months old. So just in terms of where we are, this was 1996 in the age of the internet. None of us had access, right? So, and so we're sitting here trying to project forward what might come, what kinds of jobs, and obviously how the internet played out in terms of the value that it created. It wasn't one single use case. It wasn't one single killer app. It was it getting embedded into just about everything that happens in our lives, both in corporates as well as at in our kind of personal lives. And so as we look at this, we see Gen AI as the beginning of that revolution. And the question really is that how do we make this an opportunity to transform 100 million lives of women in India who are qualified, who are willing to skill, and are not fully integrated into the into the economy. Just to give you some kind of very broad numbers, there are 533 million women of working age in India today. Of those, 133 million are economically active. Of those, 27 million have salaried or regular paying jobs. Of those, roughly 4 million work in technology. And of those, 2.5 million approximately work in tech companies, another 1.5 million sort of work in doing technology work outside of tech companies. And the estimates are that if you want to capture this full 1.5 trillion, that number of women who's employed has to go from 4.5 to roughly 10 to 12. It's a tripling. And so we are here today to basically say, well, how do we make that happen, right? How do we kind of achieve that? So my first question, and I'll direct this, let me kind of go to my notes here because otherwise my panel is going to be very tough on me. My first question is, and I'm going to direct that to you first, right? The reports on Gen AI's impact are widely varied. I've read reports that say it's much ado about nothing, and the latest Bank of America report basically says it's a revolution, it's $1 trillion investment. What's your view? What's happening how do enterprises see it, and what are the opportunities emerging, and how are enterprises responding?
Yeah, thank you, Vikas. Thanks for having me and sitting in the middle of the panel. But let me start with, I hope there is no echo. Okay.
Echo it.
Okay. So I think there is a broad consensus about AI and Gen AI. I don't think there is no more question about is that real, is it going to be another fad that's going to happen? In my opinion, it's no. Simply because if you look around, every single morning we get up and see the newspapers to whatever we're talking about, whether it's a stock markets you look at it, individuals you look at it, people you look at it, and every spectrum of the life is genuinely started looking AI is real. The question is more about, how soon this is going to be scaled that we are all talking about is the big question than talking about, is it real, is it going to stay kind of a thing. I think we moved on. There is a broad consensus in enterprises about this is real. I think the second biggest question, I think in last 3 decades, the biggest growth engine for us, at least from my knowledge, in India is about tech sector, right? I think really created a big spectrum. So far, tech sector really helped the other industries. How do you transform? How do you get digital? How do you get cloud? How do you digitize, et cetera, what we have done. But for the first time, tech services also has to go through a disruption because the most of the use cases we're talking about from AI, Gen AI, I'm going to loosely combine with AI and Gen AI, but the Gen AI is primarily talking about the productivity. How do you enhance software development? How do you enhance automation? A lot of these things we're talking about, they're all real. I think maybe if you take in economist terms, we talk about this as installation versus deployment. Installation is more about there are a lot of pilots happening, a lot of excitement, a lot of early adopters who are actually started driving value out of it. But when the large-scale adoption only will come, when the mainstream public will come and start using more and more, I think it's a matter of time. Depends on whom you speak. You may get updates about somebody say 18 months, somebody say 36 months, 60 months, etc. But it is real, it is going to say. So corporates actually started working aggressively in it last few quarters. Even you look at the earnings report of every corporate, the most important thing people are looking at how many people you train, how many pilots you have done, how many scaled implementation you have done, how much cost takeout you are doing in that, and how many startups you are actually partnering with them, how many acquisitions you have done in AI. On the lighter side, it is becoming like I was just talking to some of my MC members outside, it's about in .com days, unless you have .com, your valuation is not there. AI became really incorporates that kind of a thing. So during this process, I'm sure we will talk about another topic in that, but it is real, it is staying. So corporates are focusing big time on the talent, upskilling, big time on the partnership, big time on how do you build platforms and take these big bets happening. And this is for IT services, GCC, startups, it is real.
Thank you, Jit. I mean, it really does kind of remind me of what Sundar said. He said the risk of underinvesting in Gen AI is way bigger than overinvesting. So I think what you're saying really resonates. And MSR, obviously you're in the thick of, a hot, emerging trend, right? The new kind of wave, revolution. What are you seeing in terms of startups emerging? What are the kinds of startups that you're seeing emerging in the Gen AI space? And I heard an interesting statistic, I think it was in one of my conversations with Google, where they said that in the US, we've got 15,000 startups in Gen AI that have already, and in India, we've got a few hundred. So what's your take, and should we have more? And if so, what's holding it back?
Sure. Thanks, Vikas. So I think I was reading a report a couple of days ago. It's, I think, about 1,200 startups now. We're still some ways a little behind the US. Obviously, there are a couple of factors. I think where India will have an edge is really going to be not necessarily in building large language models, the kind of compute and the kind of dollars you need to build those. I think it's really going to be in the application layer, right? So similar to what happened in SaaS, right, where Indian companies were able to use talent available here, build in India but build for the world, right, and figure out a sales and marketing kind of engine to serve global customers. So in Gen AI, for example, the floor which you are on right now, this floor is actually, we call it the math floor. So this floor we set up a AI/ML Center of Excellence funded by our Department of Science and Tech. We did that in March this year. So it's in about 6 months or so. We already have about 87 startups in the AI and Gen AI space here. And they're across more than a dozen domains, right? So we have companies in marketing. So for example, we have companies building influencer marketing platforms. We have lots of companies in the HR tech space, applicant tracking, automated recruiting, and a bunch of things. We have companies in the healthcare space, which are doing, for example, there's a company here which is actually working with the Center for Molecular Biology on early stage TB detection, company called Aganita. So we have companies in manufacturing doing work on predictive maintenance, etc. We have companies on how to improve, for example, one very interesting company here is we have about 560 startups in this building. And one of the challenges for many of our startups is they're all, obviously a lot of them are built by technical founders who are not particularly great in getting the story about what they're building, why is what they're building relevant, what problem they're solving. So one of our startups here has actually built a platform where it asks you a bunch of questions and it'll put together a marketing plan for you, for example, right? So pretty much every area you can think of, be it healthcare, be it education. Similarly, for example, in the fintech space, we have a couple of guys building robo-type applications for wealth management and so on. We have, again, companies in education, right? AI learning tutors and so on, right? So I think the opportunities are endless. I think we are only limited by imagination, right? And we also have, you've obviously seen what companies like Sarvam are doing. We'll also see now, we are also seeing some companies working on Indian language, so we have a fairly active association with Bhashini, which we are working on. So I think the opportunity for anyone in so many areas, even in things like gaming, animation, etc. I think the opportunities are endless. And the advantage is you don't have a legacy to worry about. You can start ground up, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see, we don't have at this point any Gen AI unicorn from India, but I think it's just a matter of time.
Thank you, Avasar. And I guess, Jit, for you, it's like really rich hunting ground, right? Because you said it's all about acquisition. So you're in the right place for acquisitions of Gen AI startups and so forth. So, no, I mean, just a comment from my side. I'm actually going to ask Samita a question. Okay. So, no, I mean, obviously we heard now that there's startups in all areas. And we have an example here of a startup that's working in a very specific area. So my question to you, Samita, is what does your startup do? And just picking up on what MSR said, that there's, Indian Gen AI startups have a competitive advantage in certain areas. So when you look at what you're doing compared to your peer startups in the US, what are your competitive advantages and what benefits do you see and what are the downsides you see of operating in the Indian Gen AI ecosystem?
Thank you so much, Vikas. I love the inputs. It's actually, I like going with basic. What is AI? It's layers and layers of data, right? It's information which is synthesized to make us look intelligent for something which is repetitive, does not need a lot of human assistance. However, having said that, the first premise that still remains an ideal in climate, that's what we are building, that's the cool stuff we are building. No matter what we do with layers of structured, unstructured data, no matter a lot of you are coders here, you understand that there is an erstwhile, we used to label every data. Huh? We used to label every single layer of unstructured data, and it was painful, horrible, time-consuming, painful. Today, we no longer label, because the labeling is done by artificial intelligence. Most importantly, machine learning can just throw a gazillion and millions of structured and unstructured data. So first, we have solved unstructured data. Second, we have solved for structured data and unstructured data in a mesh. Think of it in a pressure cooker. And suddenly you have classification, which is done in nanoseconds. So that's the power of intelligence. What we do as a startup, it's called Resilience AI. I represent a team of scientists. The thing that is not very easily replicable is science, is your imagination. And for imagination, you have to have depth on a subject. I like gaming. I am an esports gamer. I play Valorant. For people who like esports, guys, it is not very easy to game, isn't it? How many KDAs will you get? But please search for AlphaGo. It's a company. When I started playing Dota 2, it's the first company which started helping our competitors to be able to give the results that we could not give. Suddenly, Dota 2 became boring. So people shifted to COD, people shifted to new gaming. And that is what artificial intelligence will do. That imagination for AlphaGo to make gaming penetrable is something that intelligence. But please remember, behind AlphaGo, there is a team of scientists who have cracked the code of how a game should be decoded. The same thing for finance. It's my favorite subject because I'm an auditor by profession. When we started financing, everybody thinks it's just a P&L and a balance sheet. Not true. It's just not true. There's a lot of risk that happens as underlying layer. Otherwise, the big fours, like an EY and a PwC, should not be making billions of dollars in doing internal audit and statutory audit just because it's a mandate. Doesn't work. Now, search for a company which is doing this in 72 hours. Does this mean that humans become redundant? Answer is no. They consult actuarials, they consult the CAs, they consult still the Sarbanes-Oxley auditors, because just making a checklist of what the financing artificial intelligence should look like is not enough. The science is very important. The reason I say this to your question is while we are building climate intelligence, we are telling you that at latitude, longitude, give us any latitude, longitude. Your building, your house, your plant, your school, your workspace, and we can light up. If there is an earthquake, what is the propensity of risk? It's a legend. It's like you use your Google map. The product is available on a Google map. But please note that there are about 19 scientists who are meshing at the same time. And the most important part that I always say about artificial intelligence, and I love this conversation because in artificial intelligence, we urge for two things. Number one, accuracy. Even if it is artificial intelligence, remember that whatever you're building with your artificial intelligence, whatever imagination or a need that you're solving for, it has to be foolproof or near foolproof. Else, it's just a matter of a science lab. One of the things that international companies are doing better or have an edge is the ability to drive greater accuracy. Compute is inexpensive, huh? Right now, it's super inexpensive. Access to data and infra is inexpensive. It is not like when we used to have big DCs and spend millions of dollars. So with that inexpensive, the science is in our reach, why are we not able to deliver? And the only reason we are not able to deliver is the ability to drive accuracy in our models. Focus on that. And the second thing with imagination is ground truthing. We say, please avoid bias. When we do imagination, I like the marketing content, there is something called deep fake. And it's applicable to every industry. So avoid deep fake is something that we do. However, I say that Southeast Asia has a larger plethora of data which is just not easily recognizable or classified. If you don't recognize the right input file, no matter what it is as your code, or no matter what you have built, you're going to generate something which is not trustworthy or is biased.
Thank you, Samita. So I think that we've sort of, what I'm hearing is that we've got a great opportunity. We've got lots happening in the corporate space. We have a vibrant GenAI ecosystem that's coming together. There's nothing that I've heard that says that this opportunity may not be, is not going to be $1 trillion opportunity. So let's kind of move on that basis. And so, Sita, my question to you then is, and then following from that to you, Srividya, is how are women positioned to capitalize on this enormous growth in value, growth in jobs, growth in absolutely a new tech revolution, right? And if you kind of cast your mind back to the new skills that had to be learned and the new roles that were created starting in 1994, we're at that same sort of juncture now. So how are women positioned to capitalize on that? And you've obviously got an amazing vantage point from which to answer that question.
Thank you, Vikas. So, unfortunately, the problem is still old. Gen AI is new, but women being represented or equity, right, we've discussed it over and over again. But I'm glad that we're doing it again, right? The more number of panels on that, the more times we discuss it, the better debate, the better solutions we come up with. Before I answer that, if I may just allude to a small, story or something that happened in the US. I met a friend who had lost a job with a big media company during COVID. And she's an author now. She's always been in media. She's writing and producing shows and all of that. And then she said, I'm a Gen AI author now. And I was like, are you stealing stories or asking ChatGPT to write stories for you? What does that mean? And then she said, no, all these illustrations. She showed me a beautiful book of illustrations. She said, obviously I was out of a job. I needed to live in New York, save on stuff and blah, blah, blah. And she said, I've started writing, but then I said, then she thought of hiring an illustrator, and obviously it costed her an enormous amount of money. And then she said, I just used AI to create characters, and then it just helped me. It felt like I had a friend, right? And to help me in times of need. Because when we take examples, we take such good examples, deep tech examples, but also there are these lighter, if I may say, examples where we are not intimidated by the whole change, but sort of welcome it. And I've said this to you, Vikas, in our conversation. There are multiple conversations about how everybody's going to lose jobs. There's going to be so many lakhs of jobs lost. And Jit is laughing because these are the conversations that are going around. A graduate saying, oh, we won't be getting internships now because, Gen AI is taking over. But now coming back to how women are, anyway, they're underrepresented in the whole thing. You've given the numbers out. I don't want to repeat myself. How do we create an equitable future? Create platforms, use existing platforms, and have access to resources, tools, have access to funding, mentorship, whatever the technology is, if you create access to it, then you have an entire generation of women or early in career women who are ready to take this on. And that's the only way we do it, because then I'm looking at all your partners, right? T-Hub, we all are ecosystem partners, but essentially we're platforms. We are platforms for where we enable you to become successful in your entrepreneurial journey, and whatever sector that is. So when we're talking about Gen AI, then it's our responsibility to ensure we have the best partners, tools, resources, access to mentors to provide for the people who are interested in pursuing it. I mean, that's my personal take on it.
Shivita, I'm going to nuance the question for you a bit based on what Sita just said.
So I think
Sita basically said, new problem, old solutions, right? Solutions haven't changed. In fact, I think you said old problem, old solutions applied to a new problem. And you're a pioneer in education. You're obviously been thinking about a lot of this in setting up an institution for women only. And surely what's been playing on your mind is how do we prepare our students for the future? And taking maybe a cue from what Sita said, we've seen this movie before. We had 1994, and we've ended up in a place where women are not represented. We've ended up with and even now the women in AI and Gen AI is like 15-20% versus an industry number of around 30-ish, right? Jit, I'm sure you've got better numbers than I do. So how are you preparing, and how should women be preparing for this new revolution? And what are you doing, and what are your thoughts on what are the skills they should learn, and what are you teaching them?
Thanks, Vikas. So I agree with all my panelists here. I think I can confidently say, though it is an old problem, but this is like a golden era for both AI and for women, because never before in the recent past, I mean, for as long as we can see, have we seen women, so many opportunities given to women, so much of scope in terms of, hey, we want women to be represented in these places. We want women to have equal representation in corporates, in governance. So I believe the opportunity is there, both in terms of acceptance and the numbers that we had discussed before in terms of the opportunity. So it's such a huge opportunity, and many platforms for skilling, right, for women. If you look at traditional platforms, like we have our higher education institutions where there are specific courses designed for artificial intelligence and machine learning. There they have multiple opportunities now. And recently, I can say confidently that education institutions in India have started getting better in terms of having research, having more corporate academia partnerships, which we have not seen before. This was there in US universities, but not before in Indian universities. So now that we have these partnerships with corporates, we have Center of Excellences, and we have other skilling institutions like your upgrads. So for institutions like ours, it's easy for us to partner with an upgrad or a Simply Learn, and to quickly churn out these very fast, short certifications where they don't have to go through 4 years of formal education. They go through the foundations, basics, yes, but then they can learn very fast now, for women. And this is also a great opportunities where women from non-tech backgrounds can easily move to tech backgrounds if they're interested, because they no longer have to learn C++ and Java to learn Gemini tools. So whether you are interested in tech, whether you're coming back to work after a break, you have multiple avenues. And today, every institution, including ours, we have Center of Excellences. Everybody is trying to solve focused problems, and with those focused problems, you need focused skills. So there is some level of cooperation, I can say, between government, corporates, education institutions, and women themselves wanting to go out there and get themselves skilled. And I should also mention that specifically because we're talking about women over here, it's not just the skills, right? For women, they need an environment, a culture which tells them and which pushes them that you have to apply. You have to apply and learn and then relearn and apply. And I think that's where we need to work more in terms of getting your hands dirty and then prototyping, and then learning by doing.
So not to just sort of, cycle back to you, Jit, but it just feels like that, and it's very kind of, so there was, Shivida, thank you, and that was, one of the things that you raised was this whole notion of, I guess, two ideas, right? One is, you don't need to have necessarily deep technical skills like Java, C++, in order to be in technology. And second one, the second one was the speed, right? So there was this notion of learn, relearn, and setting up it sounds like you've set up a learning environment that kind of focuses on that. So it's, shorter, more relevant pieces of knowledge rather than a degree that doesn't change for 10 years and is totally obsolete in year 2. So Jit, from your perspective and from your vantage point, obviously you're seeing new kinds of roles being created. You're seeing, you're in a tech company, in an area of the tech company where all this action is happening. So what are those new roles that are being created? What are the new skills that you're expecting your new hires to learn? And are you seeing new hires having those skills when they arrive to you, or do you have to kind of spend 6 months training them, right?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Vikas. So before I go there, let me just add to the previous question as well. While it's a old problem, old solution, or new problem, new solution, there is some good news. Last week I happened to be with BCG has done a survey along with NASCOM and published a report which talks about some good news is among the male-female colleagues across the globe as well as specifically industry, more than 90% of women in IT and tech services, they believe GenAI is the future, but only 35% of the people are ready for it. So which means there is a fundamental understanding about it. Interestingly, in India, junior and mid-level women are ahead of global population in terms of getting ready for GenAI compared to global. The only little challenging in that is the senior leaders are not yet ready. And while I don't know where to go from there, but I think that at least the survey comes out as Indian junior and mid-level women genuinely believe GenAI is there and they want to get ready for it. So the good news is at least the people who are already in the employment, they're ready for it. So that's one portion of it. The second portion, what probably we have to see is about, as we get India is known for engineers and every institute is built with engineers, computer science, and I'm sure we created generations and generations about nothing else other than the computer science engineer. Now, I think the only thing I'm sure all of you in this place, if you are just completed engineering or you have brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, the first question everyone last 12 months talking about is, I think I'm going to put my brother or kid or whoever it is into non-computer science, looks like computer science is going to die. I think this is the set of questions you keep hearing about, right? So I think in my view, I agree with that. I think it's not just the engineering tech. I think application of that actually plays significant more role compared to what it was. Maybe last 2-3 decades of our engineering is not necessary about application, but I think it's even more important for application before even we talk about diversity. It wasn't there. So I think probably we need to start going there. I think there is also excitement for everyone talking about what are the new roles, what are the new set of things, but there are fundamental roles which will still continue to happen in the new GenAI economy. I think I like the way Smita started with, everyone is ready for AI except your data. So that's the norm I'll talk about these days. Everyone is talking about AI. Everyone is saying, I'm ready for AI, but not your data. So which means you have significant amount of work that needs to be done in data, which has lots and lots of roles coming. In the past, a lot of these capabilities are only with a large corporate enterprises, but now we are talking about the massive amount of small, mid-sized corporations and NGOs. Everyone is getting users of data and AI, so which means your economy is doubling, tripling. So even existing roles itself will start doubling, tripling in that. So number one. So that's just to reconfirm people about existing roles are not going to die. A lot of existing roles, in fact, will double, triple as we go through this $1 trillion economy or whatever economy we're talking about. Number two, I think like any other new trend that comes in, I think we all have seen, at least some of us in this room, whether it's a client server you talked about, or whether it's a cloud or a digital or now AI, there are set of rules which will naturally get created, right? So at least when I started, there is an RDBMS, database management systems, you have to learn blah, blah, blah. Then we said unstructured data, how do you deal with it? Now we're all talking about anything and everything, you should be able to do it, whether it's a voice, image, etc. So which we start talking about now, vector databases, knowledge graphs, etc. So I think a knowledge engineer, we can come out with nice fancy terms. I'm not an expert, but there are set of people who will come out. So one way to look at it is the knowledge engineer type of things will become very important. In a layman terms, which is nothing but in the past we said database engineer, data engineer, this engineer, that engineer. Knowledge engineer is a beyond structured data, you can have something like that. And then a significant amount of fear currently with AI is about, I think deep fake is the best example. I think if there is, I don't know how many of you realize, every single day, all major corporates gets at least 1 million cyber attacks. There are people trying to attack 1 million across the globe, and some are successful, some not successful, but I think amount of that will actually multifold. So which means amount of roles that are going to create with AI start solving the cyber security will become double, triple, more and more roles will get created. The third one is about ethics and going to play a major role, because no regulation can come faster than the technology. Technology will come first. It creates enough good things as well as enough mess, then regulatory will come and start doing. So ethics related things will go on to create more and more rules, whether you call AI ethicist or you call whatever the term you're going to call, which could actually be I won't say non-technical, but that will be a pseudo-technical role, because somebody has a good amount of understanding about what is bias, what is legal, which is very, very important to have that kind of role. So maybe some of our colleagues who are doing a lot of law-related or administration-related, economics, all of them will come to mainstream to deal with that. So I think that's where the roles of, whether you call knowledge engineers, whether you call about, while a lot of data annotation and others, which Samhita talked about, will get automated, my belief is lots and lots even will get created. I think I know some of you would have followed, one of the Stanford graduates started, collecting the data. A rural woman in Karnataka, he captures all these dialects. The app is there, and the app you read out that in a different dialects, they get paid 5,000 rupees per day. I think AI has created that kind of a business. There are hundreds and thousands of women use that app during their farming work. They just read that app in between, and who's paying for that? Google's and Microsoft are buying that data by paying millions of dollars to this company. So entire ecosystem is going to get benefited with more and more such roles, which sometimes we can't imagine today. But I think we need to embrace this technology and then start seeing how do you build that entire ecosystem, then start creating is about, hey, what is that role? Can I start driving into the economy, my curriculum right away and start doing? I think it's too early. But as long as our curriculums are taking care of the fundamentals of the engineering, software engineering, as well as helping people to build systems for the sustainability, build systems for ethics related, build systems for responsible, I think we can be, and more important thing is application of it. I also agree with that. In the past, we didn't have collaboration with industry, with institutes and all that. Application only come from there. Last point, going back to what you said, why we had to do 6 months training when somebody comes to our industry in the past, exactly because of the curriculum, what we are doing versus what people required was the gap. And I'm very happy to say last few years, there is a lot of effort done by corporates, a lot of effort done by HICIA and others, to really bring in helping people suitable the day one when they join jobs. I know we're still a long way, but I'm sure there are enough efforts happening. And particularly women engineers, we still have, I think if I may say 50% type of people in every college, people are joining. And by the way, last week there is another report central government has published about there are many curriculum, even women actually dominating and more than that, except engineering. Hopefully at some point of time that also get changed. So it's a long answer, but I think there are set of roles will create more and more instead of getting panic and start worrying. Now the last point I'll say, while you did not ask, is these phenomena of cyclical waves about every economic wave is very common. We have seen 10 years back, there was this financial wave, before the dot-com wave. And every time there is a wave like that, which is good or bad, there will be an unemployment, there is a pause, phase with which it happens. It has nothing to do with AI or Gen AI. It has to do with multiple factors which impact at that point of time for freshers not getting jobs, or there is a delay in terms of that. It's primarily because of that wave. Then naturally everything is attributing to AI and Gen AI is coming, taking everyone's job. In my opinion, that's overrated and over-exaggerated. And sometimes IT is one of the very fancy industry in India. Media get a lot of attention if anything goes wrong there. So that's all I would conclude with.
Thank you, Jit. That was super insightful. And I guess just to steer the conversation a bit back to, so what I heard is, this is the beginning of a technology, lots of applications that get developed. We're seeing applications at a very nascent stage right now, and if you kind of took the internet as an example, obviously this has scaled massively over time. And if the S&P's, the transcripts from their calls or anything to go by, I think roughly 50% of S&P annual report or call transcripts from their reports in the last quarter mention AI, right? And so if 50% of corporates are already got AI on their agenda, these applications will get deployed, and then there's a natural growth as we've seen in the past. And I guess, Sita, the question to you is, how do we, so I understand that there's kind of a foundational set of solutions that we need to put in place in terms of funding and access and so forth to encourage more women entrepreneurship and more women participation. But are there things that we can be doing specifically to take advantage of, for example, some of the things that Jit was talking about in terms of, people are ready, but where's the data, right? Can we have data? Can we have, a mass entrepreneurship around those sorts of businesses that are women-led, especially, from your vantage point and given that what you're involved in, right? I mean, you're at the center of this. You're seeing lots of, women-led businesses come. Is there an opportunity for us to create that? And can that be the thin edge of the wedge towards getting to this equitable participation in the trillion-dollar economy?
So if I understand you correctly, you asked me if we can have it centered around data collection, like properly?
Data collection and businesses built around that, yeah, led by women.
Right. I'm sure there are a few existing already, right? But again, I know right now they're in boardrooms asking for funding and mentorship. It's day in, day out. That's the problem on the ground. Great idea, because every time we go, for example, all the data that's available about AI, facts and figures, other than participation of women, the narrative is with a male lens. Because the contributors of articles or the data collection or whatever, the entire narrative is with a male lens. I mean, if there's anything that MSR and Jin want to say about that, right?
I'll give one example.
I can also add.
This is actually a sports analytics startup based out of Chicago. There's a company called Athlete, okay? And for those of you who follow sport in America, Americans are completely crazy about statistics, right? About American football or baseball or basketball, right? How many assists, how many rebounds, how many tries and all that. So this is actually being done. So what this startup is doing is college football. So they're looking at games which have been played over the last 50 years, right? So they have records which are all on paper, right? So these are being digitized, and can you guess where the digitization is happening? It's happening in Coimbatore, okay? And who's running it? There are 12 women who are running it. They're all earning now about 25,000 rupees a month. What's their educational background? I think out of the 12 women, 4 are graduates, the others are 12th pass. So what are they doing? They're looking at this data, they're creating it in such a way that it is machine readable, and then obviously you'll put algorithms to run on it. So if you want to say, listen, there was a play done of this type back in 1976, you're getting that data. So just to give you an example, who would have thought a startup in Chicago would find somebody in Coimbatore doing this? So I think the point, just to build on what Sita was saying, I think we are only limited by our imagination on what possibilities exist. And how much training did these people have to go through? 1 month.
And as Jit was saying, it's application, right? Internships are still seen as maybe you'll get an internship. One of the things that we're driving as a part of our entrepreneurs program is we ask the founders to enable internships from college level so that they hire these interns, and then application happens, then real-time learning happens, and then you're creating a pool of confident, job creators rather than job seekers, if I can say so. And yes, in the process, you create people who then take a solution-centric approach and say, data clearly is missing. There's McKinsey that's always, reporting on these things, and I think BCG does a few, and then there's, when it's gender-related, there's very little data in any sector when you pick. The numbers are very broad, and then it's in one report, and it's more like a check mark. I don't want to sound too jaded, but that's the realities of what we deal with every day. So, great idea, Vikas. They should be centered around that. But gender studies now are a huge thing. And many people are involved in building, models around that. Yeah.
So, and I guess, Samita, a question to you, coming right back to the startup in AI entrepreneur, is if you wanted to create 10,000 entrepreneurs of the nature that we have doing college football stats in Coimbatore, which is fascinating, by the way. I went to Michigan, so I'm crazy about college football, but anyway. What would it take? What's in the way?
I'll flip it.
Okay.
I'll flip it and say, why only engineers? So, for example, and I'm going to set an example here, something that SPA, School of Planning and Architecture, is doing. They're a team of architects and spatial planners. They're not engineers, but they're learning coding. They're learning Python because they want to create something where the structural infrastructure can be predicted with respect to biodiversity, which means which land parcel is better has water conservation, and thereby has a higher vegetation index. It's technical. But these children, they are not engineers. For example, so I'll flip it. When I say I flip it, I mean it, and people are doing it. If you have to create this master plan and have 10 million people, there are 2 things that will be needed. One is flip it, because women are not just focused in engineering. It's everywhere. We are everywhere. We design, we build content, we are the economists, we finance. Now, the second point that I want to say is sponsor. And that's where I believe it's beyond gender. Man, woman, transgender, does not matter. Sponsor each other. Teach. It's very simple. It's a very simple thing to ask. Teach and collaborate. So, for example, engineering colleges are collaborating with commerce institutes to be able to create financial models. One cannot do without the other. It's not going to be possible. It's a Herculean task. In the center, there are 2 things that we keep. That's the third skill that you should have. is choose your function. When I say function, choose what you like. You may be a civil engineer, but what excites you is mechanical. You like auto. Your love for life is the torque and the horsepower and the engine. That's what you love, but you are studying civil for whatever reason. Choose your obsession, because function is application. Tech is just a way of, if I may say, automation. It amplifies the way we operate. It amplifies intelligence. It's coming back to that same conversation. Now, application is only possible when you're obsessed with something. So choose your science, choose your obsession, no matter what field of study you are in. And the most important thing, which I like what she says, we are horrible at communication. And the reason we are horrible at communication is because we never understand the customer. I'll always say this as an entrepreneur. What differentiates people who are so-called successful entrepreneurs from the not so-called, there is no one called fail. Entrepreneurs never fail. It takes courage to be an entrepreneur. Is the way to narrate that story, keeping customer or keeping a need at the kernel. So these are the 4 things that I would say would be very relevant to create that 10 million number.
Very unruly panel who's not listening to you.
I love it. I mean, this
just do
is heading in the
talking
direction
about
that we want to
whatever
go
we
in.
want.
So what I'm hearing, and is that there are women doing all sorts of amazing things. They are not necessarily in technology, and what we and what would enable an explosion, potentially an explosion in entrepreneurship, is if you inspired women that were working in all of these domains, that have a passion, that have this kernel, an obsession to create something, to enable them with some knowledge of technology. And building a little bit on, I think what you said is that, and earlier what the Google guys were saying as well, is that what is different about kind of enabling someone with technology now is that previously it became a whole domain in and of itself, and now you can actually enable someone with technology with lesser intensity and lesser efforts. So you can take their obsession and convert it into either a job or a business. And so how do we kind of enable and women to enable women in technology at scale? In the millions, right? Because I think that's what it's going to take. Would love to get your suggestions. I'm going to start with Srividya, because obviously she's in the field of education, and Jit, I'm going to come to you after that. But this, how do we enable 10 million women to learn Gen AI?
So I might sound repetitive, but because your question is, the opportunity is huge, how do you get these many women, right? So I think now, especially because the different modes of learning right now, you don't have to really go back to your formal education to get skilled. And if you look at the reports that were released, Upgrad and Simply Learn, last year's or this year's reports, they mention clearly that the enrollment rates, if the enrollment rates grew by 100% overall, the enrollment of women grew by 130%. So which means that there is a demand, and women are willing to get themselves upskilled, to get ahead of the competition, or to get back to work after break. So there are many, many avenues now. These learning platforms which are quicker, than the traditional systems, that's a great way. And then, like I've mentioned, there are centers of excellences in institutions where they're focused on a problem, and then those work as COEs for upskilling as well. And these are great ways to engage corporates to come to discuss their problems, and then to skill students to cater to those problems. And of course, the partnerships that we have with the corporates, where basically colleges require resources, right? Because they have these traditional professors, student system, wherein that kind of a teaching learning model doesn't work anymore. The teachers have to get skilled as well. So this is where corporates coming, and they should give us resources who are really working at the problems at ground level every single day, and they have that expertise to come and upskill the professors as well. And then, of course, the apprenticeship. So I think this is apprenticeship, internship. So this is where students can, or women can get opportunities to really learn on the job, train on the job, and get access to those technologies which aren't there in the traditional learning environment. So yeah, many platforms to learn.
Thank you, Srividya. And Jit, and then finally MSR, and then I'm going to open it up just for the audience to ask questions and make comment. But I guess just to go back to my original question is, if the challenge that we're facing in creating enormous opportunity to capture this, this part of the $1 trillion equitably, is to create lots of entrepreneurs and to enable women who are good at something else, but not necessarily working in technology with technology, and we want to do it at the scale of millions. How should we do it?
Yeah, I think there are two parts to that, right? One is about from bottom of the pyramid, which Vidya talked about during the colleges and schools when people are coming, how do you get them ready? And I think some good news, thanks to COVID, during COVID, while it is a bad thing for the world, we really figured it out how to drive more online, how to engage. And I think these days, truth be told, whether it's a hackathons and others, I think bottom of the pyramid, there is a method to the madness that has been there. I think the biggest challenge, but when you go back to the other reports that happens today, the reports keep talking about there is a huge gap of skilled workforce that is available for us, right? So keeping that in mind, I think the skilled workforce required at existing workforce, I think you talked about 4 million, 2.7 million, etc. Even that workforce has to be literally trained, cross-skilled and upskilled for us to make use of this bottom 10 million. I think that's the big task to the corporates. And I think corporates are doing their bit within internal, but to me personally, the biggest game change that's happening with what I'm associated with ICF, for example, I think going back to the faculty orientation program, there are several things happening. For example, a year back, we launched Drona. Drona is nothing but how do you cross-skill, upskill by bringing industry, not just one corporate doing for one college, bring bunch of those colleges and bring a different corporates together to drive this ecosystem. I think that's what Drona is about, which is for faculty. Then there's something called Kriya, which is about bottom of the pyramid. And then there is something called Nipuna, which is about how do you cross-skill. I think this has to happen at an ecosystem level where it will be more successful. I'm sure what you are trying to do with SAWIT, particularly with the this has to happen much more faster for us. So maybe at some point of time during Q&A, I'll even request my colleague Sairam to touch upon some of those things. But I think the biggest thing is about there is a possibility to make millions of people cross-skill, upskill, but it has to be a more structured, programmatic approach where entire ecosystem industry has to come through at all levels of cross-skilling, then only the bottom can be useful. Otherwise, we'll continue to talk about we have X amount of million engineers, they're not getting useful, productive, XYZ. The reason is the next level, there are not enough people who can mold, mentor, enough startups or corporates not available. So we need to actually do both sides. So in my view is about, I'm glad there is a lot happening, but we need to accelerate even further. There is always this fear about can another country take over IT advantage, but I'm a big optimist and firm believer. Irrespective of whichever turn came, cloud came, digital came, Eastern Europe came, this came, that came. I think we are probably the souls in the world who can actually cross-skill, upskill much faster than even machines. So keeping that, but I think there has to be an effort that has to be done, which I'm glad people are doing, and I think we should do more of these forums.
Great, thank you. MSR, any comment on how do we create this massive scale from your side, and then if you can hand some mics out to the audience. Yeah.
Sure, so I think 2 levels, right? I think one is we must to some extent get over this obsession with tech, right? I think that's the first thing, because just like in the BPM industry, which also is about, let's say, give or take 25, 30 years old, they got over that obsession with tech, right? So I think let's look at one is reskilling the existing workforce, where I don't think there is a gender issue. I mean, everyone has to get reskilled, and there are opportunities, platforms which are available for people to get reskilled. Companies are investing in getting their people reskilled, and I don't think there, Jit, I'm sure you will say there's no gender issue with respect to reskilling. So that's one part. The second is the example I gave you, the Coimbatore example, just to repeat that example. I think there'll be plenty of opportunities in areas around things like content, data preparation, etc., where you don't need a technical degree, right? And you can just figure out how to get people done fast track. Plus, today, if you think about practically every university you can think of, large university, has MOOC type of courses where you can learn foundational skills on Gen AI, apart from commercial platforms like Upgrad and so on. So today my first learning on Gen AI was a course I learned at MIT. It's something which you can do over 3 or 4 weekends. Okay, so I don't think language also, now you're starting to get content in Indian languages as well. There are at least 2 startups I know which are building learning content in Gen AI in the 22 Indian languages. So I think it's as long as you're digitally connected, and of course that will bring, Sita will talk about digital empowerment. That's a topic for a separate discussion. I think the opportunities exist to this thing, and it of course requires the coming together of, like has been said, coming together of industry, academia, and government, right, to create this as a movement, right? We have an opportunity to do what we were able to do with the BPM industry in Gen AI, and not necessarily all of it being tech-led, but also a very strong services flavor.
Thank you, MSR. Any comment or questions from the audience? Sorry, Shiva.
No, that's okay.
My
I just
apologies.
wanted to add that there is again this challenge of skilling the students in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? That's the big challenge, because if you're looking at numbers, the numbers are there. And that's another good opportunity, because governments are looking at shifting women's participation in unorganized sector to organized sector. So this is a great opportunity. I don't really know how it can be done, because we're still looking at tier 1 cities and then looking at how to solve the skilling issue here. But I really believe that the numbers are there.
Thank you, Srivatya. I'm so tempted to plug what we're doing, but I won't. Please, to keep the sanctity of the panel. Questions? Yes, please.
So yeah, thanks. Just a couple of minutes to feed on to what Jeet was. First and foremost, I think it's been a phenomenal coliseum of thoughts, practical insights from entrepreneurs, ecosystem builders, and MSR Garu himself. Yeah, so I represent HYCIA. Just a couple of minutes to spread this, something that we've been doing very passionately. So we've looked at so we have one of the pillars of HYCIA is what we call the future skilling, right? So in fact, I have Vinay from Tech Mahindra, Jeet, a couple of my colleagues, Funny and Hari. So we've all been corporate leaders. So we looked at this whole talent ecosystem, right? So we felt that while 90%, as you all know, feed into the students. So we felt that we'll inverse the problem. Someone used the word flip. So we actually flipped the problem. We said that, can we go to faculty in engineering colleges across the state of Telangana and scale it up with a content that's truly world-class, where they're actually, because our study figured out that there's significant gap between what a faculty actually knows and what a student knows. It also brings down the morale of the faculty. So that's when last year we released Project Drona. Incidentally, I run Project Drona, which I'm very super proud about. So Drona obviously is a tribute to all teachers. So the other thing that we were talking about is the ecosystem, right? So I would like to thank Infosys. They actually enabled one of the largest MOOC, it's called Springboard platform, Imagen Coursera on steroids. So this is the Infosys content that's given to their employees, that's exposed to every single faculty member in the state of Telangana. And thanks to my distribution partner, Task, that's where the government comes in, Telangana Academy of Skill and Knowledge. And I can tell you, faculty from Nalgonda, Mahbubnagar, Nizamabad, people have taken this course, six modules, AI, digital transformation, Python, that's Drona number 1. And the beauty of the program is, thanks to all our ecosystem companies like LTI, Mindtree, Tech Mahindra, we have mentors assigned for one for every 5 faculty. Imagine a senior AI architect in Tech Mahindra, actually helping a faculty apply machine learning and distributed computing. So that's what Drona is. And then end to that, we did an immersion program in one of the large IT services companies here, Value Momentum, thanks again. And the problem we're trying to solve here is, can we actually fuel the thought process of application of engineering at faculty? And if that happens, they can actually equip 10 students, right? So that's Project Drona. Now we're proud to let know that this cohort, we're doing Drona 2.0. The flavor is obviously Gen AI. How can we let that go? So we are launching the first of its kind Gen AI content again through Springboard. And then Nipuna is that's part of Drona 2.0 along with another partner who came for blockchain and quantum computing. These are 300 hours of hands-on courses for faculty to get trained, equipped. Then we are taking it bottom of the value chain. We are launching this Gen AI course. So there's Coursera's, there is Udacity's, but something that IT services companies have tailored for their own employees. We thought we'll release it to the students. So Nipuna is going to be a first of its kind program. So that's bottom chain. The last part is Project Kriya. So while we all address the talent supply chain, faculty and students, let's not forget the most important thing. The middle layer of the IT services industry that we all represent, phenomenal amount of talent base, domain experts, employees, project managers, who on many other crafts that they come into play, have got a little bit of identity crisis that they're going through because of the sweep of Gen AI. That's not the case. A SOA architect or a BFSI domain expert is equally important in the wave of Gen AI. So Kriya that we are actually working will empower pragmatic use cases that the industry leaders like partners like ServiceNow and many other companies who are HICIA members are putting together, where we're going to roll this out for the middle layer of IT services companies. So they can actually, that's the reason why it's called Kriya. Kriya is all about doing it. So that's the whole AI, content, talent, future skilling program. And this all rolls up into an larger envisioning program called Project Vriddhi. Vriddhi is where startups come in. So we are also working on, Vinay is leading that. How can actually we embrace some of this work that we do from a skilling standpoint into a startup ecosystem? It could be M&A, valuation, startup directory. So this is all done by, thanks to HICIA. The platform here is about HICIA. I just thought I'll take this 2-3 minutes because spreading something good is always useful. And thanks for SAWIT to giving this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's fascinating, and thank you for all your efforts. And great to partner with HICIA. Sure. Thank you.
The birthday boy.
Oh, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Sai.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? There's one back there, please. Can we get a mic back there? Rajul, can we have a mic back there, please?
Hey panelists, thanks for sharing your experiences and insights. My name is Shrikant. I work for New Relic. What I wanted to know was some insights from the panelists in terms of two things, right? Attracting women candidates in tech, like what can we do as a corporate to make sure that we improve on the percentage of our diversity. And then the second thing is, what kind of things can we do to ensure that we create the right environment and the women candidates who are working with us, they are able to flourish and prosper.
I can start with that. Maybe from my personal experience in the last 3 years in the corporate, which I'm part of it. I think it's all about experience. It starts with, we all can preach, we all can have our own happy International Women's Day, etc., but that's not what people are looking for. I think and by the way, every company claims to have the set of philosophy, process about this is the best place in the earth. I don't think that's where people get attracted. I think whatever we preach, we have to follow their kind of a thing. So what we have done is about in the corporate currently I'm working, we created an initiative called Diva, which is about diversity for women in AI kind of a thing. The way to attract there is about, it takes time. By the way, unfortunately in our corporate culture, everything quarterly results we want. As soon as we decide, let's get a gender diversity percentage from single digits to teens numbers, we are in a rush saying, okay, come on, where do we get profiles? I think we didn't build an ecosystem of so many mid-level managers and senior leaders, and where do you get it? You don't get it. So obviously there has to be a two-way process. One is about how do you attract from the external talent, and there is a second biggest thing historically in the IT industry. We did not allow a lot of women leaders as a role models for P&L leaders and other thing. It's always been branched into set of thing, and over a period of time, even some of them started believing they are good for that. I think we need to change both sides, and once they start expanding along with your policies and other thing, you will start getting. Otherwise, simply announcing we have a 200 women positions, do people want to come and join? Very rarely you will find a plethora of people leaving their existing jobs and come running into that. That will not happen. I think it requires both internal and external to really drive that. And second thing which we found a little bit successful for us is today, if you talk to any woman leader, it doesn't matter whichever organization they are, whether they're the customers, partner, and services company, we organize every month, come and share their experiences, what they went through. I think I've seen that huge success. And I think that actually starts spreading the message about there is a company genuinely doing over a period of time something than just doing for the sake of it. And as soon as manager or leader changes, it's all get dropped out. I think that image has to change. The third one, what we have done is about, to again attract both internal and external, created a structural intervention about going back to some of the things which I mentioned before. What are the biases we have? We have a typical biases about women are known for this versus women are known for that in the IT services industry. How do you break that? Can we create more thought leadership papers coming from women? Can we create more solution architects coming, P&L leaders? To do that, you have to change. And good news is one of my female colleague, Usha, who runs this entire thing, and she's been a big ally for me, but she said, and she and her other colleague, one way we're going to solve this with GenAI. And she said, in the past, we have any question, clarification, doubt, most likely we have to talk to a male colleague, a male ally to deal with it. Thanks to GenAI, now I can type, I get 90% what I wanted here. I only go to male allies in that. And I believe for the first time, there is a chance for women to start fixing this 130, 170 years of parity in less. So short answer is about this is a structural intervention, takes time. Just because we get up in the morning, tomorrow we want 300 people get attracted is almost impossible.
Yeah, thanks, G. That was very insightful.
If I may add, thank you. Yes, very valid points. So I see across some familiar faces, right? I see Sirisha, Deepa, all of them seniors in their fields of work. What I'd personally, if I was working for you, I would say get senior leaders, women, mid-level, junior teams, colleagues, everybody into a room and ask them what is beneficial for them. So if the beneficiaries are speaking the same language as the organization is when you have a successful intervention, right? So please include, and yes, male allies are great, but you will get to the root of the problem only when you hear it from the source, right?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Samhita is asking which organization?
Which organization did you
So
name?
this is New Relic. We are setting up a brand new center in Hyderabad. And New Relic has been a leader in the observability space for more than 12 years in the Gartner quadrant.
You're more than 12 years old as an organization?
Yeah.
That is fantastic. And how big is the company? What's the range of turnover?
So this is my third week in New Relic, and I'm hiring, right?
You're brand new.
Yeah, so I'm brand new as well. I worked at Amazon before, so New Relic is looking at that level of people. Like we have people coming in from Microsoft, Amazon, Salesforce, yeah, and we are expanding in Hyderabad, right? Like we weren't here, but now they're kind of recognizing the level of tech talent that we can kind of get in India. So yeah, like New Relic has like big plans of expansion in Hyderabad.
Since I don't know about the company, in the leadership, what's the ratio of woman, man, and transgender?
I have been seeing a couple of women directors. So we do have a senior director of software engineering here. But even in the US, I've seen like a couple of women directors. And we want to be very intentional about our diversity here. So that's why my manager asked me to kind of attend this seminar to see if we can get any insights that can help our diversity.
I'll give credit because that's a good start.
Yeah.
It starts from the top.
Yeah.
That's why I asked the question. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go with the
Please, yes.
I'll sit and talk if it is okay. I have been hearing, the startups get support, the college environment gets support. I have a small software company. We have our own product. We serve some agricultural companies and hotel industry in Africa, particularly East Africa. We have been in the business from past 15 years. So now this, you're saying that change, the AI and all, even that we need it for our customers. So it's good ecosystem for the startups, everyone. The companies like us who are very small. So is there any support system that, she's my daughter, the next generation coming in?
I'm happy to have a conversation with you offline. We have an AI ML COE here. Happy to understand a little more about what you're doing and then see what we can do to help you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. I mean, I'm just very conscious that we are at time, and I know that you've got a flight to catch. So what I'd encourage everyone to do, sorry to kind of cut this off abruptly, but I hope that some of you are going to join us for cocktails on the 5th floor, and there's some snacks and so forth. So you'll have an opportunity, hopefully, to catch up with some of our panelists there. So you're welcome to ask them questions and interact with them there. But really, I mean, this is with just the deepest gratitude. I want to thank all of you for being here and for taking off your precious time. None of us has any obligation to do any of this, right? And I'm deeply aware of that. So I don't take the thank you very lightly. I do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules. I'm sure that you've got lots of amazing stuff to do where you are doing it. I come here bearing no gifts. We have no thank you goodies. I'm a total novice at sorry, switch and bait. What can I get? Bait and switch. So sorry about that. But yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for our panelists for your insights, and really, truly appreciate it. And thank you for being on this journey with us. It gives us just a huge amount of confidence. So, yeah, thank you. And thank you to all of you for coming. Thank you.
You will be the